Coming up on today's episode.
You get up in the morning, you're doing the best you can so that you make certain amount of money at the end of fortnight or a month. And let's look at your goals. The goals are, you made a list of things, as I mentioned, and say, I wanted to achieve these things so that I am comfortable to stop my work. You know what your goals are. You know where you are today and what is your income today. There is only one chance for you in this life. There is no way you can actually spend 20 years and then go back to your younger days and do it again.
Dodgy advice and bad decisions can cost you big in real estate. We're here to make sure that doesn't happen. Welcome to the No BS Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jo Agresta, and it's time to take control of your property journey together.
Hi, my name is Ali Mohammed and I represent Planet Wealth, which is a financial advice firm. I came here to do a podcast with Jo on how to achieve your financial independence and how to prepare for it. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone, to the No BS Real Estate Podcast, your listening how-to guide to the Aussie finance and real estate market. I'm your host, Jo Agresta. Now, today's episode is for anyone who's ever felt like they're working hard, they're earning good money, but they're still not really getting ahead. You might be a young family juggling bills, or a professional who's flat out with work, or even a migrant who's sacrificed a lot to build a life here in Australia. By the end of this chat, you'll walk away with a clearer idea of the 3 financial foundations that everyone should master, why planning for retirement needs to start earlier than you think, and how working with a good financial advisor can literally change the course of your future. My guest is Ali Mohammed. Ali migrated to Australia in 2004 with his 2-year-old twins. He built his career from the ground up and has now spent nearly 2 decades helping everyday Aussies prepare for their retirement, manage risk, and build a legacy for the next generation. So without further ado, Ali, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I'm so glad to have you because when we met at a Fresh networking event, right? And when we caught up, we had no time, but we did snap a photo together. You did stop me quickly and said, nope, let's have a photo. I can't help but think as I was reflecting and writing your episode, I was doing the questions. I was like, I feel like that photo marked the start of a really long and good friendship and relationship together.
Yes, I started networking about a year ago, and then I always felt that, okay, when you go networking, you wanted to remember people, and you wanted to make a contact with them. Sometimes it will work and sometimes it may not work, but it is always nice to have that memory and put face to the name and then probably add them up on LinkedIn, and so that you actually build that relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I was so glad when you reached out and then we started connecting. And honestly, our conversation inspired me in a lot of ways, not because I talk on this show a lot to professionals like yourself, and I always hear fantastic ideas or like, oh yeah, that makes sense, financial planning or financial advice. And I thought, why am I not taking the advice that I am giving, or the guidance and the tips that I share on this show for myself? So that's why I'm excited to start a journey with you.
Thank you.
Of course. But let's get into it. I think like all good stories, we want to know, your background. You came to Australia in 2004 with your family. What was life like in those early years? And how did you find your way into financial advice?
I'll keep it very brief. There's a long story to tell. I moved here and with my twins, and when I came here, language was an issue. Not these days, but those days, I studied in like a regional language in India. And I was like a little bit embarrassed to go out and talk, just figuring out that, okay, somebody might point me out or whatever, and on top of it, I have an accent. So these were the issues. So I started working in retail to start with, and figuring out myself in terms of what I wanted to do, how can I become wealthy or become financially independent, and started reading a lot of newspapers those days, and in 2004, and watching news and just getting accustomed to Australia as such. And then I worked in retail, and one of my colleagues actually introduced me to a financial advisor who happened to be. And then that was very exciting. And then at those days, I started off taking some insurance for my case something goes wrong. And I started going out and talking to my friends about it, and I realized no one had any kind of insurance in place. Started referring these friends to the financial advisor I used to use. They came back and said, you're pretty good, why don't you do it yourself? Yeah. So that's how it actually started. And then the aim was not to continue working in retail as long as I was there, but it was like a a way for me to pick up on the language, understand people, and do something better in life. Not that it is something bad. It's like, yeah, but I was aiming to achieve something because I'm a migrant. I wanted to make sure I leave a legacy. I wanted to make sure I achieve something so that I can prove to myself that I'm worth something.
I love that story because I think it's so relatable for a lot of people who immigrate to Australia from all different countries. They come here with, not knowing the language, having to learn the basics or the fundamentals. And I love that you chose retail because retail is such a social job, and you pick up on a lot of personalities, a lot of different people, and often disgruntled people or people who get very frustrated or, very happy because they're excited to buy a new phone or a new device. And I love that you chose that because I think that would probably bleed into a lot of how you manage people and situations now, I'd imagine.
It helps you read people well. You understand that side of life, and then you actually give them the information, be one of them, and provide the right information so that they can make right decisions for themselves.
And I think that's super important. I think everyone sees it as a taboo topic that they want the help, but they're too embarrassed to get the help. So what I'm hoping is by the end of this episode that everyone tuning in today feels comfortable to know that when you do approach a financial advisor, it's not about being judged or being told you're doing it wrong. The fact is that they're not the professional. And a lot of people get it wrong. It's very common. It's not an uncommon thing that everyone seems to be stable. A lot of behind the scenes go into it. And this is what Ali brings to the table. So when you went from working from Apple in sales, and you also did Bollywood post-production, we were talking.
Yes.
That's so interesting, and then you became like your pathway into the Rising Star finalist in the financial advice industry. What was that journey like to kind of reflect, like now that, you've been doing this for many years? What's it like to reflect back?
See, when I started my business, naturally, I just wanted a place where I can work for so that it gives me an opportunity to save some money by not dropping my kids off to before school care and after school care. That was the beginning. And then luckily, I was part of Association of Financial Advisors, and they had a program where they match up mentors and mentees. And I'm very, very fortunate to meet this gentleman called Manny Selma from EJM Wealth. He has been amazing. I wouldn't be sitting here if it was not for him.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so he took me under his wing, and he forced me literally to come and sit in his office on King Street in Melbourne. I worked from there. He gave me a tiny desk, and he would give me a very little time. But whatever I do today, I'll photocopy of what I learned being in those environment, in those surroundings, in his office, watching him talk to people and working with other colleagues. I still have a really good relationship with him, and I still approach him if I'm stuck somewhere.
I love that. And, shout out to him. Like, that's a massive credit, to have that kind of support, especially early stages or, throughout your whole career, to have someone you can still talk to is unbelievable,
Yeah, he just retired, but he's achieved a lot.
That's great to hear. I love that. Oh, thank you for sharing that. I guess what made you then decide to start your own practice? What was the point where, you started working as an accountant, but then there's obviously the point where you wanted to branch off by yourself. What does your business look like today and that journey?
See, when I started, I worked from home, and then I moved to the city office, and then I started working for myself. But my mentor used to help me with the back office. I worked in my mentor's office for about a couple of years, and then he helped me acquire. He actually told me, it's probably time for you to do some mistakes, learn from that, so that when you become bigger, you don't commit those mistakes. It will be like fatal for you, which was like a great advice. I went out and I had an office, a bigger office, and we had staff, and last 4 or 5 years is a little bit of up and downs with the Royal Commission in place and the education qualifications for financial advisors.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Okay, so there is like a downside to it, but I think if you see it as a financial advisor and a financial advisor business is right now, this is a golden period.
Right. Yeah.
There is a lot of demand for it. Now people also understand they need to see a financial advisor. There used to be a time where nobody would actually look at Google and AI and probably look for a financial advisor, but these days it actually happens.
So you actually deal with a lot of people coming to you wanting to start something. for themselves.
Yeah. It's more than a business. I see it an opportunity to actually educate people.
Yeah, of course. And this is part of why when we caught up, I was like, yeah, this would be a really important episode to cover on this show because we get a lot of submissions from our listeners. Shout out to those guys. Thank you for submitting every week that ask us about, this financial stuff. And they do have hesitations about, how do I start and what do I do? And I think there's for some this idea that they need to be perfect before they speak to the financial advisor without realising that the place to start is often where you're making the mistakes. So you stop making mistakes and making it worse. And part of what we cover on the show is property being a big part of the asset, how it can damage some of that planning that you have in the future. Like, I love that you saw that gap and saw the opportunity to educate. That's exactly why I wanted you to come on.
Thank you.
Of course. And like you said, when we caught up, you said you built a team not only here, but you've also got a bit of a team overseas. And even your daughter, which I love to this, your daughter is now training to join the business pretty much. She's at university. And how important is that family and legacy, in the way that you've built it?
See, I have twins who are 23 now, a boy and a girl. I'll get into my business or do something which will give them more money. I don't want to decide. I give 100% of effort, if you say, into whatever they are doing. I keep telling it doesn't really matter what you planning to do. Whatever you like, whatever you get into, give it your 100%. And the results will automatically come. That's what I've been telling her. And she actually has gone to London to do a summer subject in London's degree in Monash. And then she came back, and this was for her to decide whether she wanted to go there and do her master's when she finishes her bachelor's in Monash. And she came back and said, Dad, I think I wanted to learn what you're doing, and then probably then I will decide whether I wanted to do full-time with you or not. And then I gave her a choice and gave her some part-time work a couple of days a week. And now she actually kind of likes it.
That's amazing.
And she says, yeah, I wanted to here and I wanted to do a qualification in becoming a financial advisor, which gives me a lot of satisfaction that my daughter actually likes it and she wanted to join the business, so I don't have to stress about who I'm going to leave my clients to.
Yeah, and they're going to be looked after.
Yeah, and the business is actually going quite well now. We started doing any sort of marketing or stuff, but my clients are now my salespeople. Yeah, right now. It's working well and we are up to full capacity, and if we have to do anything more, we have to grow the capacity. That's the reason we are actually looking at some staff here and some staff overseas just to manage the expenses. So, end of the day, if you don't manage your expenses, you are actually charging too much.
I really like how you sort of said, you've never pushed your kids to say necessarily you have to work for me. I think a lot of families or generational families tend to do that. It's the expectation that they will take over and that will be, done deal. They're working for me. I love that you gave them the freedom to explore what they wanted, and your daughter ended up saying, I actually enjoy what you do. And that must be so satisfying to have her working alongside you, because I think in a lot of ways this was your baby before, she's your baby. This is also your baby, your business.
Yes, yeah.
What a nice way to commemorate it.
Yeah, because it's very important for you to do the right thing, go out and help people. It's for your own satisfaction and you growing up every day in life. And then what also happens is you directly or indirectly passing on, because the children are somebody who actually seeing you on a daily basis.
Right.
How you behave, how you act, how you work, what is your ethics. All this actually, they look up to you. And then one day if they say, they want us to be their role models, that there is no money which can actually replace that satisfaction. No,
very, very well spoken, very true. I think, that gives us a great sense of, who you are, how you got here. And I want to switch gears a little bit, to talking about the people that you work with every day. And this is really what our listeners are tuning in for, and why so many Aussies are still struggling financially, even when they're earning decent money. So how do you, in terms of your client base, who do you mainly work with? What does your ideal client look like? Is it typical mum and dads, or is it savvy investors or professionals?
When I started the business, I didn't have a choice to go out and say I wanted to see only this particular niche. Okay, I was open-minded and I wanted to help people like me. So a lot of migrant communities, professionals and mums and dads and small business owners who's looking at some sort of guidance. You need to be more than a professional, you need to be a person who sits with them, understand their situation and prepare a plan which actually suits their requirement. And you become more like a a mentor or a friend or a counselor. Depends on what day you're talking to them.
You've got to wear the hats.
Yeah, because also the fact that you're also managing their money, they tend to trust you more. So you have that additional responsibility to keep it very transparent because everybody understands we run a business.
Yeah.
So I explain it to them very well and say, I'll keep it very transparent. I'll actually let you know whether I make money directly from you. Do the right thing by them.
It makes sense. And, you know, talking about that, like you at the early days, you know, you said you're kind of open to everyone. Is that, you know, when we talk about mum and dad's kind of earning good money, you know, or good incomes, but they're still living week to week, I think that's a situation that's pretty common for a lot of people. What do you think that happens? Like, what's the kind of pattern that you see people get into with that kind of mentality?
See, when you're young, actually you start with like a slightly lower income. The income goes up, so is your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's true.
the kind of place you live in, the kind of car you drive, the kind of holidays you choose, the kind of leisure activities you choose, it all goes up according to your lifestyle. There is nothing wrong in it. And so having a good lifestyle is good. That shows that you actually enjoying the life. I also talked about not only achieving your financial goals at the end of your working life, but also making sure that the journey is enjoyable too. So if you are doing something, if you've got like a 50 bills in your letterbox, you shouldn't be unhappy about it. Yeah. Because you are able to afford 50 types of services to manage your lifestyle, which is making your life very easy, enjoyable. So the other thing you have to look at is, okay, that is like on a daily basis that's happening. What's going to happen in the short term and what's going to happen in the long term? Have a goal for itself. Goal setting becomes like the most important thing. If you having those 50 services are enjoying and having a good lifestyle, you ideally wanted to enjoy the same lifestyle into your retirement as well. That forms the basis for my advice.
So it's very much like goals orientated and understanding what is it that you enjoy. So the 50 subscriptions, I think that a lot of people have will get the bills. It's proof that they have fun, but the reality is they get stressed, you know.
Every time you see that letterbox when you're coming back from work, you don't want to open that letterbox.
I think this is why people switch to email. Easier to ignore. And, you know, one of the stats that you mentioned to me when we caught up was you said only 11% of Australians actually use a financial advisor. Why do you think people hesitate to get advice? Although you said it's been much more forthcoming now, but what do you think that hesitation is?
Because we tend to live, most of us in this country tend to live, that's our way of life.
Yeah.
Okay. In Australia, so we have most of our people have money earmarked for various expenses, and we hope that every fortnight or a week or a month you get your income back. There is also somewhere I read that if you don't get your income for 3 weeks or 3 fortnights or 3 cycles, most of the country, or more than 2/3 of the country, will be bankrupt.
Yeah, that's a scary stat to think about.
Yeah, just imagine the fact that if you have like a health issue or an injury, and if you cannot work for a month, what's going to happen? But if you don't think about it before you actually become injured or sick, it's a nightmare.
And I think that's the most important thing you just shared. It's what if, Everyone talks about the concerns and the what ifs, right? They go, what if this happens? But it'll never happen to me. Until it happens, then what are you going to do? And I think this is where sometimes maybe financial advice or hardship becomes reactionary. It's crap, we made a mistake, I don't want this to happen, now I'm going to go talk to someone.
And then most of the time it is too late.
Correct. It's like, well, we have to do bankruptcy or we have to go down this path that's ugly. Whereas if you actioned it and you did that earlier, you would have made a very big difference. So, and I guess a lot of people, I said this earlier on, feel embarrassed to share their finances. So like what we were just saying, there's that hesitation that they come when it's too late. But let's talk about like the people that have that hesitation, they feel they're being judged. What would you say to someone who feels nervous about laying all of that information out to a professional? Like how do you kind of reassure someone who is feeling that sense of, hesitation?
See, most of us feel, depends on what sort of income you are. Okay, we all feel that, we don't have enough tend to happen. But I actually have taken it as a particular task to go sit with my senior clients and engage their children.
Oh.
Okay, and I tell them, just come and have a coffee with me. I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm not going to push you anything. I just wanted to talk to you.
Yeah.
That little bit of nudge actually makes a lot of difference in their lives.
Yeah, it would.
Okay, so you can tell them, I can help you retire at whatever age you want. But if you're happy to take a tiny commitment because If I talk to somebody at 20, 25 years of age, they literally have 40 years to plan compared to I talk to somebody in their 40s or 50s. But if you haven't planned anything and if you're really worried about it, it's never too late to start. At least we can take care of foundation requirements for financial advice. What is necessary? It's not, see, we all wanted to do well with whatever money you have. We all wanted to achieve great heights, and we keep doing the right thing and hope that one day that miracle happens. Because of the inflation, because of the money we make, and we always running hand to mouth, most of the cases, and paying the bills, and life goes on, but the life goes on too fast. If you don't do anything about it, and then one day you'll sit there and say, okay, I don't have the means to retire comfortably.
The sad thing is, I think we all have seen this play out with our families or different families set up, and for a lot of people, these are generational cycles that they carry on the same bad habits. It takes one person to put a stop to it. And I've seen this play in different, just can't stress the importance of that open conversation, that this person does this for a profession. Like Abodey is a professional. He's not here to tell you, oh, wow, you really buy Uber Eats 6 times a week? Why don't you cook dinner? He's not going to say that. It's not about the judgment. It's about, oh, this is actually achievable. Here's where you can save a bit of the money. Here's where you can change a habit and make a big difference. And sometimes you might be thinking in your head, it's 10 things you have to change. Your lifestyle's terribly different. But often it's the small things that make that big difference over a longer period. And I think this conversation, especially for someone tuning in, a lot of our listeners are in that age group of about anywhere from about 28 to about 45. I think this is the prime area of where people are starting to go, oh, I think I'm getting a bit old. Maybe I should start thinking about first properties or second properties or the next, 20 years, where am I going to be? So like exactly what you've said is this is the right time to have those discussions. Ideally not into your 50s or 60s where you're 5 years off retirement. If you're in your 60s, it's a bit late.
A little bit difficult to manage it. As long as you're willing to work a little bit more, that's okay.
And, I think that really highlights the gap between, where people are and I guess, where they could be. So let's unpack the framework that you use with your clients, because you mentioned something in our catch-up where you said there were 3 foundations of financial freedom. So I want to unpack that a little bit. So the 3 that you mentioned, and I want you to break this down for us, is managing your risks fairly. That's number 1. Number 2, own your home outright. Number 3, and correct me if I'm wrong, maintain your lifestyle now and in retirement.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, so talk us through those fundamentals.
See, we wanted to retire at age 65. You're studying 25 years and then you're retiring, your official retirement age is 65. So from 25 to 65, you're working. So from age 5 to age 65, you are directly or indirectly preparing for your retirement.
Yeah, one life.
One life. There is no way you can go back. So I tell people is like when you are starting that life at 25 working, you wanted to make sure for whatever reasons, if you cannot work and if you cannot bring that income home, you wanted to make sure that risk is managed. That is nothing but having proper insurance. Speak to somebody, structure it well. Most of the time you can actually do it from the money for yourself and for your family as well. Make sure you have enough money, either in your equity of the house or an investment property or in your super 87, your situation.
Yeah.
Isn't it? That's the most important thing. If you are in that position, at least you know that, okay, I should have done this better, I should have done that better. Those 3 things are like the bare minimum for anyone. So if somebody comes to me, like I was a migrant, starting, this is what I'm going to do to them first. And then there are other things which depends on your creativity, your imagination. You can sit there and say, okay, I wanted to sit with my partner or myself. And I take a pen and paper and make a list of things I need so that I don't have to go to work tomorrow, at least to pay the bills. So that actually comes with you write down your wish list.
Yeah.
What do you want for yourself? What do you want for your partner as a family? What do you want for your children? What do you wanted to pass on? Do you wanted to do charity? Do you wanted to buy a car? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
List down everything on top of the initial 3 I said, and that forms the basis of your financial goal. The list is nothing but your financial goal when you turn 65, because that's when you stop working.
And start enjoying, or in some cases, if you wanted to retire early, what do you need to do?
Yeah.
Sort of idea.
So when you know where you wanted to go, or when you have this list ready, that you know you have a financial goal, Financial advisor will sit with you and figure out where you are in terms of your income, your expenses, liabilities, your assets, your super, your insurances, what other stuff is going on in your life, including your health.
Yeah, which is important.
Which is important.
That doesn't, you can't plan for that,
Okay.
unfortunately.
So there are things people understand and people realize and put those things in the list. And most of the time, you don't talk about binding nominations within the super or having a will or starting a trust or having a company to buy your property, whatever it is. So these are the things a professional can bring it to the table and say, have you thought about it? So which also gives you, like, there are so many topics which you may not know about, which you may not think about, which you don't know, you have to plan for it. A professional can actually bring those things to on table and say that, okay, you should actually think about this stuff. So which is very important. That's why I suggest people go have a chat. Most of the financial advisors offer half an hour or an hour free discussion, or they call it a discovery session or initial meeting or whatever. You go sit with them, just understand. You don't have to do, but you can actually get a grasp of why I should sit with somebody, a professional. Is this something I can do it myself?
Yeah, that's true.
But whether you do it or somebody else helps you do it, financial plan is a must for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more with that. And I guess you said it about life goals. I think that's so important. Like, I love the idea. And I think that's what made me feel so, encouraged, because it's true. But in life, there's so much that you plan for, but often the pathway to achieving those goals is always not linear. It's not straightforward. And I think this is why when you try to plan yourself to do these things, of course, anyone who's got the time, the capacity and the capability to, take a DIY approach to this, of course, they're going to do it. But I think that's the benefit of what someone like yourself as a financial advisor brings to the table, right? It's these stepping stones into these future discussions, like these future plans. It's just fundamental. And that's why I love that 3 foundations for life. And it's life planning. But at the end of the day, take the finance out. It's, what do you want to do in life? Are we going on holiday in 10 years? Are we buying? So super important. Could you share an example, I think, to bring it to life, of where a client completely turned their situation around by putting these foundations in?
See, I actually, as a small business, I am a sponsor and support few local events, and one of them is cricket. Naturally, being Indian, I love my cricket. Yeah, and as a gentleman who came to me and asked me for a sponsorship of $300 towards a cricket tournament. 11 years ago. Long story short, we put the basic stuff in place. Now the clients they're doing professionally very well compared to where they started. I look after the money side of things. They have 3 investment properties and 1 in their SMSL. They have decent amount of money sitting in their super. The one thing they don't worry about is money.
That's amazing.
Okay. So may not be for everybody. Okay. You need to trust somebody, take that commitment. As a financial advisor, I sit with them and look at their situation. This is like a very personalized plan for you and your family. You don't have to compare yourself with anybody. You know, when you know what you wanted to achieve in life, there is no competition.
Yeah.
Okay. You set a goal for yourself and you do it and you feel happy. It's all about doing the right thing, and it's all about working hard. It's all about being the best in whatever you do in your profession. Manage the money. They can help you save, invest it effectively based on your risk profile, and have the peace of mind with you to understand where you are today, where you are going to be in certain short term or long term. So you have the peace of mind. So professionally you are good. Keep maintaining your physical health, mental health, and we manage your money side of things, which is financial health.
That's very reassuring and a good story too.
Thank you.
And I think the one thing, and we've talked about this a bit, but what does it mean to you when you talk about retirement happy? Like, how satisfying is it? Because I can imagine that when you deal with clients and you see that they're kicking their goals and you're dealing with them for many years, you're actually seeing them grow into their families or buying new properties and things like this. What's that feeling like for you to see someone actually kicking their goals?
I help somebody retire comfortably, and as part of that, I now did the basic job of looking after them for their risk management and putting some system in place that they have enough money in their super. And suddenly, who's like the son, who works in mines in Western Australia, called me and said, I was playing soccer, not at work, playing soccer, tore my muscle and I have to go through a surgery. And the doctor said, 6 months, I cannot work.
My God.
I said, that's not an issue. You have an income protection. The first thing I asked him was, does dad know about this? I said, yeah, I told him. Okay. So I said, okay, it's all good then. Things were under control. It's only a muscle tear. He'll make his money. Now I went back to the dad, and dad actually said, son, I know you will look after him. That's very satisfying. So you get up and you do the right thing. Okay, it's not about you achieving something or making a lot of money, but it's also about doing the right thing, feeling nice and sleeping well for myself, and being that role model for children.
Yeah.
I always say that it's really important to leave that legacy. Okay, making sure that when you turn 60, 65, you're sitting on the couch or rocking chair and then thinking about, okay, I had a good run.
Yeah.
And it's really worth making those sacrifices and coming to Australia.
Yeah, it's like you have no regrets. It's all been worth it. Every bit of hard work.
And I always feel it. So I always accomplished, and I'm always like, okay, if I don't have the financial awareness and keep it as possible and grow my business, which will give me immense satisfaction, because I never.
I love that. And this is exactly why I wanted you here, because your story's very inspiring. It's incredible. Like you said, the fact that you can sit down even just actively in life. I think for a lot of people, that's a hard feeling, to feel accomplished and satisfied day in, day out. Like, this is part of, what you do, and like how you help people feel that same sense of accomplishment. That's the story you shared about, 6 months off work would be scary for a lot of people because there's no income in some situations if they're not protected correctly, and you were able to navigate that. And the dad to say, I know he's looked after by you, that's amazing. Well done, and congratulations on building that legacy. And I think, before we round out, I always like to do a quick segment called Reddit Myth Busting. So this is a fan favourite. This is a segment where we go on Reddit. We basically look at some of the common, objections or stories from real people who are experiencing hardship in the financial advice area space. And I want to read a couple of these stories to you and just get your take on what your impression is and how they could have done better or done differently.
Yep.
So you up to playing the game very quickly?
Yes, as long as I'm not in trouble.
No. Hey, none of them say that it's you, so it's fine. So this first one, this is a Redditor from the Oz Property Chat, and we'll throw it up on the screen. And this Redditor says, I wondered if seeing an advisor would be helpful to consolidate debts and help with the plan moving forward, to manage everything and start putting money aside for any unexpected things. So what they're asking is it worthwhile? Is financial advice money well spent? And I think that's an obvious one from our discussion today. But what are the risks of, trying to figure all this stuff out on your own when you're weighing up this decision?
I'll tell you why it is important to have a financial advisor in place, and is it really worth paying to an advisor to take care of your financial affairs? You get up in the morning, you're doing the best you can so that you make certain amount of money at the end of fortnight or a month. And let's look at your goals. The goals are, you made a list of things, as I mentioned, and say, I wanted to achieve these things so that I am comfortable to stop my work. You know what your goals are. You know where you are today and what is your income today. There is only one chance for you in this life. There is no way you can actually spend 20 years and then go back to your younger days and do it again. So if you're really confident to achieve your goals on your own, maybe it will work. If you're not a professional financial advisor.
Yeah.
But you will be spending more time, more money. You'll be better off doing whatever you are doing professionally to make money and afford a financial advisor who is qualified, accredited, who has updates about legislation, updates about rules, updates about various things. Every product we provide will have a PDS which has 200 pages. Yeah, and we have to go through professional development on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to do what we are doing.
I would just pay just not to read compliance documents, to be honest.
So you will be better off. And then you just Google it or ask your AI whether it is, how important it is, or why it is necessary to see a financial advisor. Or will you do better than what you are normally doing by having a financial advisor? But you will know the answers. You Google it. I don't want to be here and sell my fraternity and say, oh, come to us, we will look after you.
Yeah. But it's an obvious, lead into it, right? Because this whole episode is about like having the courage to your current financial habits hold you back from having these important discussions. I always say it costs nothing to have a phone call or a chat or a first meeting, a discovery call, like you said.
Because you're not making extra money, you're not doing extra work to see a financial advisor.
Yeah, that's right.
So he's going to, or she's going to come and make your life more easier, stress-free.
Yeah, which I think I'll pay anything for that, because stress is part of what holds everyone back from achieving their goals or feeling this sense of accomplishment that you have. Thank you. And I have another one for you. So this person writes, I had a bad experience with an advisor. And it says, we engaged a financial advisor about 2 years ago. He set up insurance and investments, but we end up dissatisfied and didn't feel like we've got what we needed. Leading from the last one, what are some of those red flags when you do meet? Because, as every industry, there's good apples, there's bad apples, but what do you think those signs or those red flags are to assess the right professional?
See, like in any industry, you can't expect everybody to be perfect. We all have the equal opportunity. If I have the opportunity to become a financial advisor and run a business for myself, in Australia, everybody has that opportunity.
Sure.
Okay. Now, the thing is, if you read their reviews, that's why go gauge them and make your objectives very clear. See how you are going with them. You feel that you are not actually paying for them to look after your affairs, but you're also paying for them to give you time. If you feel it's not bringing you the results, reason out with them, argue with them, and then if you're not happy, leave. That's one thing. Now, the other thing is, let's assume I am that financial advisor where you are asking these questions and say, and the client who put this comment on is my client. And if he comes to me and say, okay, we have, and he said, I've been with a financial advisor for 2 years.
Yeah.
Let's assume this is for 20 years. Okay. And this person has actually paid, I set up his insurances and he paid money unnecessarily for 20 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And he ended up paying, let's assume a vague figure of $100,000. Okay. Still is good. He's managing his risk. If nothing goes wrong, it's better to waste that money, let that money go down the drain, because nothing happened to you. You're working, you're still earning your wages.
Yeah.
The insurances are for managing your risk, giving you that safety net if something goes wrong.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So I can understand how this client is feeling, but his risk management is part of the financial advice. It actually forms the foundation for financial advice. Anything you do in life, sit there and think about, when you want to do business, you always look at, I wanted to see the accountant statements, the financials, how much money is making, how much profit is making. Sit there and think about what's the worst, what happens tomorrow the pandemic strikes and I cannot run the business.
Yeah, it's not defensible anymore.
Okay. So you always have to look at the worst scenario and prepare for it. And most of the time, your financial advisor will do it.
That's solid advice. Very well done how you answered that one, because I knew it was tricky.
Thank you.
Thank you for playing that with us. No, so what I like to do is when we do the Reddit segment, why it's popular, it's because often these people get scared to ask those types of questions themselves on a discovery call, for example. So my job is to bring those to light when they're talking about it and then give you the opportunity to educate, and see, well, how can we help this person, or if this is who their situation. So thank you so much for participating. We're getting to the end of our episode, Ali. I've got one last question for you, and I've loved this discussion. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and being so open. I've absolutely loved it. My last question to you is, if all listeners today had to take one action, or after hearing this episode, what should it be?
Make a list for yourself and take action.
I love it. List of goals. And what we want.
What do you want? And then you know how to go about achieving it. If you don't have a destination, it's very difficult to plan your drive.
I'm going to leave it exactly there. I really love that. Thank you so much, Ali. That was amazing. I hope you enjoyed this session today.
Fantastic.
And I'm glad I could actually be part of that journey for you, saying I never imagined I'd be on a podcast, but yet here you are.
I did podcast, but I'm like, to be invited for a podcast is a privilege.
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
And I'm very honoured. It's a privilege for us to share your story, knowledge and wisdom, especially with over 700 people who tune in weekly, which thank you, a big shout out to you guys in the community from the No BS. Without you guys, we don't have a show. So thank you so much for the support, and thank you, Alec, for educating our listeners today.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, all the listeners.
Thank you. And just to wrap up today, if you wanted to get in touch with Ali, all of his details are in today's show notes at the bottom of the episode description. We've got all his links to his website as well as his social platforms if you need. And as I always say, it costs nothing to make a phone call. A conversation. It's not going to cost you to have that discovery call, and it may change your life or change the way you think about your financial future or your retirement. I hope that you've learned something from today's episode. That's it for today on the No BS Real Estate Podcast. If you found this helpful, share it with a mate who's serious about their financial future, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
That's a wrap for this episode of the No BS Real Estate Podcast, powered by Abodey AI. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might need it. If you're looking for more guidance on your home buying journey, you can visit www.abodey.com.au for expert advice, property insights, and the tools you need to find the right home with confidence. If you're already on your journey, you can also download our app. Just search Abodey AI on the App Store or Google Play. Have any questions or want to connect, you can follow us on Instagram at abodey.com.au or send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.